Welcome to Live on Air tonight. I've got Clive Dyson in with us, and hopefully Barbara Moller will be coming in fairly soon. I think she's trying to call me on a video call that I'm not going to accept. Sorry, Barbara. So without any further ado, I'd just like to bring up the questions that we're going to ask tonight, and they're sitting here, and what we've got is the art and craft of designed ministry for daily living. And we're going to ask Clive to introduce himself, and if Barbara can get in, she'll come along and give her introduction a little bit later. But let's begin straight away. Clive, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for allowing me to come on this program. It's been really good. I'm married to a colleague. I live in Rangiora, and I go to the Rangiora Methodist Church. I'm retired, and this means that I can do all sorts of things that I wanted to do, like toy making, painting, drawing, animation, movie making, and working in the community and gardening. So I've got lots of time to do those things now. During my working life, I've had a wide and varied experience. I started off in clerical work, working for a firm of public accountants. Then I went primary school teaching. Then I got married and then went to Bible college, and then started a signwriting business when we came out of Bible college. And then I went into the Methodist ministry and stayed there for a while. Then with my wife, we opened some tea rooms. And then from then we came to Christchurch, and I've been involved for the last 20 years or so in the funeral industry. First of all, as a funeral director's assistant, and then for the last 18 years or so as a freelance funeral celebrant. I've also done lots of other jobs, like cleaning passenger aircraft for Air New Zealand and Pacific Blue. And also I've worked for Fulton Hogan doing their traffic control and security. And also for 2 years I was in their sign business. So you can see that I thrive on change. So
that's a really interesting and varied career. We've got a couple of viewers in, so let me just say to the viewers, if you've got any questions or comments that you would like to ask, just flick it into the Q&A pod, and Clive and myself will be happy to answer as best we can. I just can't come back, Clive, to what you... I know that in a very early stage of your career, you went and you hoped to go into the Air Force as a photographer. Did you learn the photographic trade in the Air Force? No,
I didn't get into the Air Force. I was accepted on my intelligence, but when it came to medical, I failed miserably because they detected I had a hole in the heart, and that was in 1962, and they gave me 5 years to live if I didn't get it seen to. So I got it seen to, and we came out to New Zealand. This was in England, of course. Then we came out to New Zealand in 62, getting here in August. So no, I've had no formal training in photography at all.
Right, but you've certainly got a gift for drawing and cartoons and things like that, which we're going to come to as we talk about the creativity of the Kiwi toy maker. And in fact, that's what your website is called, isn't it? Or your Facebook page, the Kiwi Toy Maker.
Yeah.
And it's, let me just bring the screen share up again, Clive, because that takes us straight into, I believe that there are elements of design across all your hobbies, whether it's toy making or in Barbara Moller's case, dressmaking, etc. And somehow this impinges over to elements of design in Christian life. But before we get to Christian life, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you design things. I mean, just toys, for example. We'll show some of your toys towards the end of the broadcast, but how do you even get the idea? What's it all about?
Well, I started about 7 years ago, and I worked for at least I belong to a group called Santa's workshop, and these are a group of retired people, and between us, well, I suppose about 8 or 10 of us, we make between 1,000 and 1,200 toys a year. And around about now in November, members of various charity organisations like the Lions and the Rotary, they come and they pack up these toys, and at Christmas time they distribute them to needy kids. And that's where I sort of got started in toy making. Although my kids, I did make some toys for them, but that's going back about 40 years ago. When it comes to making toys, I find inspiration on the internet. I see pictures, I think, oh, that would make a nice toy. And so I draw up plans, well, sort of draw up plans. I make it as I go along. But there are certain things that are important to me when it comes to making toys. First of all, they've got to be safe for the children. No sharp edges. The wood's got to be non-treated. The paint's got to be child safe. And I like to try and make the pieces so they're large enough so a toddler can't put them in their mouth and choke. And also I make an ironing board. And I was going to make it to fold up, but it occurred to me that it could accidentally fall and trap a child's fingers, so it doesn't fold up anymore. Then I also have a thing about guns and swords and things like that, which I'm not interested in making at all. I don't really want to encourage kids in that sort of violent sort of sphere. I use recycled materials, offcuts from joiners. And one of the beauties of making toys is that you don't have to have very big pieces. So any bits can be used. I'm normally work in pine, MDF if I have to, although it's easier to work. But these I don't use pallet wood either, for the simple reason that I don't know what's been on the pallets. I mean, it could have been a drum of chemicals, and of course this would compromise. I like to make a high standard of my toys, and even if they're to be given away, the standard's got to be.
How many would you make for giving away, for the Santa giveaways?
Well, I've made about 150 this year. It's puzzles and toys and trucks and things like that. I don't go to the workshop. I work from home for the simple reason it's about 3/4 of an hour trip, and I've got all the tools at home. So what I do is I make the toys here and paint them and finish them, and then just deliver a whole batch when they're ready. At the workshop, some guys make them, other guys paint them, and but I do the lot here and just deliver them, which means that I'm not restricted to 2 days a week.
Right. Strikes me that some of the people that are viewing there may be the odd toy maker as well. And just to pick up on something you mentioned, you said you'd be on the internet and perhaps looking for design, a toy that you could create yourself, but sometimes the design of that toy might be sparked by something you've seen on the net.
Just a picture of a truck.
Yeah.
Like
Clive, in general, because you're very creative with other things in terms of drawing, etc. I think a lot of people that could be creative don't realise how important this process of looking at something and trying to copy it and learning a little bit about the design or a drawing a little bit by copying. I'm a great fan of copying. I don't mean that you have to reproduce something perfectly, but by copying, do you think we get a sort of stimulation to design and create for ourselves?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Basically, when you boil anything down, you've only got a square, rectangle, circle, and a triangle. Those are the basic shapes. So anything is made up from those. So when you copy, or when I make toys, you tend to see how a particular object is made up of different shapes, and that makes it quite easy. And when I'm doing drawing, for example, I just draw a basic shape, maybe a rectangle, for if I'm drawing an animal. Basic shape is a rectangle with a circle for a head, perhaps another circle for the nose, and then you modify it as you go along. So yes, there's a lot of things that can be copied, and it helps to show what it's made of.
Yeah. Clive, this is probably a very good time. Have you got that little video clip of the animation you did? Because you produce animated, well, you produce cartoons basically, and I think people would be interested to see. Yeah, show them this little clip. Have you got that ready?
Yeah, I'd just like to introduce it though. When my girls turned 21, I made them each a video of basically this is your life, and I went back over their years and called up teachers and kindy teachers and friends and got them to bring a message to the video, and I did this for each of the girls. And this particular video that I'm going to show now was the opening of my youngest daughter's video. It didn't, on the actual video, it didn't end in the way that this one does. So I've just modified this a wee bit. So here we go.
Great.
I've got to share it. I can't get the screen share thing up.
Just play around with your mouse to sort of... Yep, there you go. Just while Clive's bringing that up, he has this sort of talent for drawing and doing all sorts of interesting things. So,
was on a mission to deliver a brand new baby to a family.
I'm not seeing it, Clive.
So he flew to and
You're not
fro
seeing
across
it?
the land until
Not
he
seeing
reached
it.
the mission.
Hearing it.
Whoops.
Right. I'll see if I can get it up again. Entire screen. Share.
Yep. Oh, okay, now I'm seeing myself in your screen. So if you can bring up the rest, that's it.
Not too far away, Stork was on a mission to deliver a brand new baby to a family who was waiting for her. So he flew to and fro across the land until he reached his destination. Whoops.
Okay, if you stop sharing your screen at that point, and I'm going to just say what I like about that video for our viewers is that so it happens I was born at St. Helens Hospital where that stork crashed into. So I was quite intrigued when Clive showed me the video. Okay, now just sort of thinking about this, Clive, what you've got in that video is the creative process at work, that you've started doing something. You want to tell your daughters their story, or their story from your perspective. This is your life, and you've expressed yourself in images. Most of us would express ourselves in words, and so that automatically puts you into a sort of a different creator category. Do you find that you express yourself more naturally through image rather than through word?
I think in pictures, and I'm a very visual person, and you can give me a book to read and I'll read it, but I won't understand it as well as I would if I saw what it was actually happening. Most of my learning is from YouTube because it shows me how to do it. Whereas if I would just read those instructions in a book, it would take me far longer, and I wouldn't be able to get as much value from it. So yeah,
I mean, this is how the world is now working. I think we've moved from a printed medium. You know, the big thing was books, and the revolution caused by the printing industry. Oh, greetings.
We're here.
Yep,
Hello.
you're
I
in.
had
Hello. Yep. Okay, I'll just let you set yourself up, Barbara, and we'll just keep going with the broadcast.
Are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
I had a message pop on the screen, and I didn't realise I had to tick a box, and then it worked.
Ah.
Sorry.
Well, it's good that you're in. It's good that you're in.
Yes.
And here we are. We're live on air, and I'm sharing now the questions. And now that we've got Barbara in, Clive, you don't mind just taking a back seat for a few moments? We'll let Barbara introduce herself, because part of her creativity was around dressmaking. And so would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, Barbara?
Yes, I will. From a very young age, I was sewing. I used my mother's sewing machine from the age of about 5 or 6 years old, and I made everything. And as I got older, I decided I'd take courses, so I studied under Peter Rigby. He's a well-known fashion designer. He passed away just some months ago, but it was so interesting in the way he taught us. We were thrilled to bits. And so I've made all sorts of clothes, coats, jackets, capes, you name it, and done that all my life. And I also worked full-time, met people on the train. They wanted a suit, they couldn't buy one, so I'd make them one. And I've done that. I did that for a long, long time. So yes, I've had a lot of fun, met different but interesting people, and you know, that's about it really.
Well, I don't think it is all that there is to say about Barbara and Clive, because one of the reasons I've got them both onto this live on-air broadcast is because amongst all our participants, that there are a lot of us that are really skilled with using words. But both Clive and Barbara, from young ages, have tended to use images. Now, I don't mean that that's all they do when they were in their working lives, because Barbara, I think you've taught yourself any number of software programs around accounting and things like that in other parts of your working life. And Clive also has clearly had similar sorts of things across his very varied working background. But it's this ability to think creatively with images that I think separates virtually the generations today. The two of you are far more in the swing of things in today's very visual world than I am, out of basically, you know, the time of Luther, the Reformation. Along with it came the printing press, and all of my stuff was around print. And it's jolly difficult to get involved in a more visual world. So I'd like to just share my screen with you, because I'd like to bring up the second part of Clive the Toy Maker. Now, I've copied these straight off his website, and it seemed to me absolutely splendid that Barbara should be a dressmaker and Clive should have made a toy sewing machine. And if you look at the elements of design that are going on here, Clive, to be able to put that together, you've had to do some design work. You've had to think into a three-dimensional model. And Barbara, that must be the same when you're doing sewing as well. You're not looking at a suit as a flat two-dimensional image, which is the way that most of us would tend to think. It's a three-dimensional thing. Any comments from the two of you on the creative process of design from your perspectives?
Oh, well, for me, I like to be able to visualize it when it's before it's even started, and I can see the finished item, and it is certainly three-dimensional. And then there's colour comes into it, and then there's the cut of the material. Will it suit that particular figure shape? So I have to study figure shapes, and then there's also the type of material that I've used, and well, that I've been given sometimes. And I realise some materials are not suitable for that design. It doesn't fall properly. You know, you've got to think of the weft and the waft of the material. There's a lot of things you take into consideration, and if you're doing stripes, you've got to make sure that everything matches. And today, when I go shopping, I see outfits that don't have the stripes matching at all, and it looks quite bizarre.
Clive, how about you? Do you see, like with toys, you're looking at a three-dimensional product? A person like me tends to think only in two-dimensional images rather than three. What's it for you?
I think in three-dimensional. But to be fair, this sewing machine here is from plans that somebody gave me. But when I make my own plans, like those trucks, even the aircraft, they were. The aircraft were plans that I found in a book. But yes, I do think in three dimensions. And I've got to, sometimes when I'm making a truck, is it going to be too wide for a child, or is it going to be too narrow? Is it going to be able to stand up properly without toppling over one way or the other? So it's those sorts of things that I like to take into consideration as well. Also, the weight. When you're dealing with toddlers, they can't deal with heavy weight, so you've got to decide whether you're going to use a big lump of 8x2 like in the sewing machine, or whether you're going to use something a bit lighter.
Okay, let's just stop that screen share for a moment, and I wonder whether this ability to think in three dimensions is a good metaphor for doing ministry.
Wow.
It's a
Yeah,
difficult question, really.
it is, isn't it? I think it gives you an all-rounded vision of ministry. It stops you just looking at certain aspects, and people learn and people receive ministry in different ways. Like you say yourself, David, you like reading. I like pictures. Other people learn by hearing. Other people learn by doing. And so it's sort of an all-rounded ministry. So, yeah, that's what I think about that.
I've just finished, I've just done a service today, and if I think about the actual sermon content, I think of all different angles. How will it impact on the congregation? Will they get something out of it? Is it related to, say, the scriptures that we've read this morning? And I take the whole picture in the end. So you're looking at many different angles in church, I think.
I think that's an incredibly interesting answer, Barbara, because you're trying to figure your way. This is what I mean by three-dimensional effect. It's not like you're getting up and delivering the sermon and that's it, which happens in such a lot of church services, but you're thinking three-dimensionally. How will this affect people later on? That's a very helpful metaphor. Any comments from either of you?
No, I can't think of anything to add to that. It's very useful for what you said.
Okay.
You know by the comments that people may make, sometimes they might not, but from the comments they make, and they also talk about the music, and all different types of music helps people to understand your whole message, and the prayers as well. So there's a lot of things involved in just presenting a 1-hour church service.
Yeah, and this is where I think there's a huge creative gift that's needed by both lay and clergy to try to understand better how to meet people's needs and expectations as they come into church. Now, I see that we've had 4 or 5 viewers, but we haven't had any questions or comments flowing through yet. So I'd just like to ask the folk that are watching, if you've got a question or a comment, we really would be delighted to take it. And I'm going to come back to, while that's going on, coming back to the sewing machine, because there's a little bit further that I want to go in terms of creativity here. The person that originally made the sewing machine was a gentleman called Elias Howe, H-O-W-E. And Elias Howe must have driven his family nuts, I think, when he was trying to invent a sewing machine, the invention of the first sewing machine, because no matter what he did, he couldn't get it to work. And apparently he went to bed one night and he had a very bad dream where he was hauled before the king of the country, who was very, very angry that no sewing machine had been invented. Well, this is a lovely dream to have. And the king ordered him to be executed. Now, Elias Howe, in his dream, pleads with the king for just one more time. The king's not so sure about it, but gives him the sort of stay of clemency for another day or whatever. And in the dream, Howe looks around at the soldiers and he sees their spears. This might interest you, Clive. He sees their spears, and all the spears have a hole at the sharp end. And apparently, he woke up from his dream and rushed to his workshop or wherever he was making the jolly thing, and for the first time moved the eye of the needle from the conventional end to the sharp end. And that's how the sewing machine came to be invented. Now, I think that's a lovely story, and it tells us that, you know, creativity can come from all sorts of different sources. The man that invented the sewing machine, the creativity, Clive, to say, hey, look, I've got my daughters celebrating their 21st. I'd like to create something in picture form for you and to make those cartoons. I think that's fantastic. Barbara, I think in you, the mere fact that you would make a suit of clothes for free for a stranger, that to me is the heart of pretty creative ministry. Have either of you got any stories like that that you would be able to share? I don't mean like Elias Howe's dream, but something that's been important to you as you shared the Christian message that's been a creative response. Any comments or ideas about that?
Well, the only thing I can think of for the moment was when I was quite young, I was decided I had to zip.
Oh, sorry, Barbara. We may have just lost sound there. So could you start that story again? Thanks.
When I was a young teenager, I was making a top to go over a pair of shorts, and I didn't want them baggy, because we used to have baggy shorts for college, and I wanted because you can get baggy things for tops, and I didn't want that. So I went away and thought about this for quite a few days, and when I made the blouse, I couldn't have it to fit properly around the waist because it was too wide, and I'd have to have a zip down the back, behind the neck. I didn't want that. So what I devised was, if I put the zip upside down on a side seam, then I could pull it in. It wouldn't be baggy round my waist, and it worked.
That's. I think that's a lovely little illustration. Actually, that's kind of creativity. Clive, you must get this with taking as a funeral celebrant. People will come to you with things they want done in the service. You've surely got to use some of your design talent at putting together funeral services.
Oh yes. I had one family that it was a little old lady who died, and whenever anybody went to her house, she always used to go into the freezer and get something and give them to take away. And this little old lady, she used to make soft toys, and she used to travel everywhere on a bicycle. And so I suggested to the family that to make the service more personal, that they bring the bike into the service, and they put the soft toys in the front carrier, and they decided to have a cardboard box with books and magazines in the back carrier, but also the casket floral arrangement was actually vegetables. And we got through the service, and the family said to me, you know, when anybody went to Mum's house, they never went away empty-handed. And so everybody who left that funeral service went away with one spoon from her teaspoon collection. And I thought that to try and personalize the funerals, I mean, funerals can be boring at the best of times, but if we can bring some way of making that service so particular to that person, it takes a whole meaning. People take a whole different meaning away with them. I know for my own funeral, I've actually started animating my own eulogy, and it'll be so I don't want anybody getting up and speaking me. They just got to shove the CD in the player, and they'll see what I'm on about. And okay, I won't say how good I am or anything like that rubbish, but just to show the things that I've done. So this is a way that I can creatively keep people awake in my funeral, I suppose. And you know, that's what I've chosen to do. And I just hope that I get it finished before I fall off the perch.
Well, I think that's an interesting one, Clive. Oops, I've got a feedback. Anyone picking that feedback up?
No.
Sorry, Barbara?
I had a bit of feedback earlier.
Right. Okay, now I've lost it. So that's good. Well, what I was going to come in there with, Clive, was that Clive and I have done a bit of talking about this broadcast prior to going live on air, and Clive had actually shown me what I think was a really creative "This Is Your Life" from his perspective that he was just talking about. And I think you've got about 5-6 minutes into the video production of your life. And it seems to me that this is something that a lot of people could do that gives the most intimate picture of how we've lived our lives and what it is that we want to say, as it were, after we've gone. And I'm just wondering whether this might be a trend that's starting to emerge. Have either of you seen a sort of a response to life at a funeral service, reading words that have been prepared or videos or whatever by the person that's died?
Yeah. A lot of people that I take funerals for prefer to do their own eulogy for the simple reason, I give them 3 options. I say I'm quite happy to write to take notes and write the eulogy. I'm quite happy to read the eulogy that you've prepared, or you can get somebody else who wants to do the eulogy, who knows the person well. And the reason that I ask that is because some people have said, look, we don't really want a stranger talking about somebody that we love. We like to do it ourselves. And you know, they've made a very good job of it. And some of them have been very creative in doing a kind of an interview between 2 members of the family. You know, what was Dad like? Oh, I remember when he did this and did that. And it sort of brought him alive in a kind of way. So, but I think one of the important things that I try to get across is, for goodness sake, put down on paper your life story so that when you do fall off your perch, the family don't have to think, oh, now what school did Dad go to? You know, this is all important, and if they've got it ready, it's much easier on the family.
Right.
Yes, I'm going to do that with my mother because she's now 97 and a half, and I need to prepare that. And with my husband's funeral, my daughter did the eulogy, and it was fabulous. The way she did it was painting. And I thought, now, if we make something, and so after we've died, we can share it with other people and they can see some of the things that you did. So I think it would be a good idea, in my perspective, is to perhaps write a book about my life and I have to start it now while I've got time. You might have these planned and you mightn't achieve it. And I've been going to do this for a long time, and I haven't done it yet, but I'll do that. That seems to be the right thing, and write my mother's, stories about her, so we're all prepared for the day.
I think this is terribly important, because I think this is, again, it's an element of design that people really should take charge of in their own lives. Designing what it is that we want to be known for, whether it be for sharing gifts or sharing a teaspoon or whatever the story, that illustrates an aspect of our character or a couple of aspects of our character. Let me just allude to a 100-year-old lady that I had in my congregation at Trinity at Waiaki. Ella Oldfield, continued to come to church. I think she was about 97, 98. She would always be there for sort of Christmas or Easter. But when she, in her 99th year, she wasn't there very frequently. And when she turned 100, they brought her to church a few weeks after the 100th birthday party, and she got up and spoke in church. This is a 100-year-old, spoke for about 5 minutes about her early life and the fact that she had been a pianist in the silent movie era, and what pleasure that had brought to her to be able to play the piano in a public kind of way. She was also a great old lady for sport, and I think up into the early 90s she went every year to the Melbourne Tennis Open to watch the tennis. And when she could no longer travel, she got Sky Television, so she'd watch it all. And I asked her, what is the secret to living to be 100 years old? And she said, well, I've never really wanted to share this with anyone, but every Saturday evening I have a small nip of whiskey. One of the great characters of that particular church. And you see, I think that the creativity that's in people, particularly when they're in congregations or study groups, whether they're informal, part of a church or whatever, doesn't really matter. It's the fact that they are living their lives creatively according to the gospel. There are gospel insights. And I'd like to just draw us to a little bit of a close with sharing my screen. And just bear with me one moment there, please. Send it to everyone. There we go. Now, I've gone into 6 senses, and I've gone into the Which Book Club, and I've been working at redesigning part of the Which Book Club layout in order to help this creativity really get going. So if when you log into 6 senses, basically you come to your dashboard, and if you navigate down on the right-hand side to the Which Book Club, you'll see now that I've set up a series of graphic links to some of the things that are going on in the Which Book Club. And just for example's sake, I've only got a part way through. I haven't got all of this finished by any manner of means, but it will be soon, over the next few days. I've gone to the Muso pages, music awards, hymns, leading songs, etc. And here are some of the people in 6 senses, like Philip Garside, who runs PGP, Philip Garside Publishing, and he's been singing for such a long time, decades, with the festival singers, and he's been able to create some pages that he's put in 6 senses, so there are new songs. There's Dave Hallam, and you can click on Go to My YouTube, and it's worthwhile having a look at Dave Hallam as a very creative jazz pianist, and possibly you might want to contact him if you want some music written and negotiate something with him. There's Stuart Manning. You see both of those have Methodist Church of New Zealand Muso Awards. You can go to their profile pages. Dorothy Willis. Well, Dorothy, she went into Berkeley School of Music and did a course on songwriting. Now, she plays piano and organ, I think, down in Riverton Union Parish, but she's put a forum. So if someone wanted to write a song, they really felt that there was a bit of creativity in them to write a song, but didn't know how to go about it, talk to Dorothy in that forum. And you'll see there's Stuart Mannins, Colin Gibson, Anne Gray did the artwork, and I did the narrative elsewhere. And there's the song of Jonah and the whale. Where else could we go to? I'm just starting to get this set up, so as I say, not all the pages are there, but Joan O'Connor is an artist, or Anne Pritchard. If we just clicked on Anne's profile page, there she is. You can see some of the pages that she's created, and it's a journal of reflection. She's out walking, she's taken a photograph. Looks to me like that's sort of somewhere on the Ruahine Ranges, and she's got this lovely little bit of spiritual insight into that particular journey. So that's what we've been looking at. I'll just stop presenting that for the time being. Just bear with me. Bringing it back to Six Senses is a place where people like yourselves, Clive and Barbara. Barbara's been in it for 4 or 5 years. Barbara, you did the Effective Leaders course. I think you did the PTR course with a great deal of aplomb. You've done Lead Worship 1 and 2 and so on through these, and qualified in the lay preachers thing. So Barbara comes up for the award of community theologian. These aren't academic awards, these are celebrations of gifts, and really I'm hoping that more and more people will be able to understand how the Six Senses site works, so that everyone that's got something to share finds a way of being able to put it into Six Senses and letting other people share. Sometimes you've got professional people like Dave Hallam as a musician, and you would want to negotiate, to get, if you wanted music or something played or recorded, yeah, he'd be happy to do contract work. Likewise, Philip Garside with his publishing outfit. That press has got a lot of New Zealand literature, Christian literature going for it. So all of these people and ourselves, we're all putting together different aspects. And I'd love, Clive, to see some of your channel appearing, your YouTube channel, your videos. You've got a fantastic thing on China that's there. And Barbara, I'd love to see some of your PTR work starting to, get more of an audience, more of a traction, people being guided into the kind of creative pastoral response that people like yourself are making. So that was my little bit of advertising for the evening. But as far as I'm concerned, the Six Senses community has really come alive in the last 6-8 months. As the rest, as Trinity College said, no, we don't really want an ePortfolio system. But of course, the rest of the church, I think, is starting to discover some of the joys of having it. And any final comments from the two of you? We didn't pick up any questions through this, but any final comments you'd like to make about the creative life, about ministry, whatever, from both of you?
I think... Oh, go ahead, Barbara. You go, Barbara.
All right. My father, he was in the Air Force when he was alive, and he was a warrant officer, and he used to say to us, if you're not going to do the job well, don't do it at all. I thought that was a very good quote, which I've never forgotten all my life. And I've got another one here. Just a minute. Oh, yes. Enjoy what we have. and improve it, and so that you can make your life better. There's another one, because I've also done up 2 houses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Barbara, I think over 5 years of working with you, there's the most marvellous sense of Christian principle at work, and the fact that you're willing to refine some of these ideas and get them out into a public arena is absolutely excellent. Clive, any closing comments from you?
Yeah, somebody once said that to grow old is mandatory, but to grow up is optional. And I've chosen not to grow up. I just love that, still having that childlike awe of the creation around me. And I believe everybody in this world is creative. If you have an idea, that's a creation. So just go with them.
I think it's absolutely marvellous what you've been able to do with some of the video on relatively limited resources for that. I mean, I can do some things with an Adobe Premiere Pro program that, you know, as anyone that's able to use it gets a lot more background resource. So all power to what you've been doing there. All power to your ministry with toys and all of that. And for the two of you, I want to just say thank you very much for coming into this live on air. I hope it's been worthwhile for you. And later on, early next year, I'll chop this video up into a few little sections so that we've just got some little, what I call wisdom moments to share, and they'll go onto the YouTube channel, and they'll also go into Six Senses. So thank you again. We've come to that hour. We've been broadcasting 46 minutes. Thanks.
Well, thanks very much for having me. It's been good.
Thank you, David. We really appreciated it.
Thank you both. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.